from the Pentagon Pizza Report. So for those that aren't familiar, the Pentagon Pizza Report tracks the pizza restaurants that are near the Pentagon. And as of 30 minutes ago, there's been a huge surge in pizza orders, busier than usual. Now, this usually indicates that people at the Pentagon are working overtime and they're ordering lots of pizzas because something is about to happen. Now, Donald Trump was supposed to give an urgent address, and then he did not. So it's hard to know exactly what's going on other than in D.C., in the security apparatus, they're gearing up for something big and ordering lots of food.
It wouldn't surprise me if there was a strike tonight.
However, Jack, they also announced Freddy's Beach Bar, the closest gay bar to the Pentagon, is having a very busy night. I don't think I've ever seen it this high above the average as of 8:15.
Well, we know where Lindsey Graham is.
Whatever is going on, people need lots of pizza around the Pentagon, but also there's a lot of people at a gay bar.
We might need to check out Comet Ping Pong too, right? See what's over there with their.
I think this could be a good thing for world peace because this is what happens every time Lindsey Graham is lonely. She gets angry. She wants to bomb a bunch of countries. So hopefully she's there enjoying pizza and gay stuff.
Is being hawkish a gay thing?
It's a Lindsey Graham thing. She gets very upset.
Well, I think allegedly. I don't.
Allegedly.
CNN is reporting right now that it appears the U.S. is preparing for a strike on Fordo.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
But once again, it's just a speculation. We've also said that assets are being moved and arranged for a strike. They're just getting a little closer to it.
You guys trust the plan?
What's
no, never. If I used to be a dumb liberal, if I've learned one thing in my lifetime, I don't trust any of these suckers.
You guys don't trust the art of the deal here?
No.
Wouldn't the art of the deal be finding a deal?
Yes.
Well, I mean, we're still waiting for more news to come out about this. I have faith in the president figuring out a way to stand by his commitments that says Iran will not be allowed to have nuclear.
You know what, a lot. I haven't thought about it like that. You're absolutely right. We do need boots on the ground in Iran.
No. I was saying justice strike like we did with Qasem Soleimani. We totally mocked him. And,
you gotta talk into the microphone.
We mocked him.
We totally mocked Qasem Soleimani. Frankly, again, the Jews in Israel did all of our dirty work by taking out most of Iran's proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah. We're really going to look back at October 7th as a turning point. Also, the Houthis, the Americans actually contributed. We contributed there too with the Israelis against the Houthis, not to mention Assad falling. So if you're taking a look at the map of the Middle East, it really is our road to Iran, our road to Persia, and making sure that they can't make any nuclear weapons. President Trump, he sent out to all the White House reporters, he sent out a long list of like 30 different references to his specific quote over the years of saying specifically, I will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
I don't feel like there's a lot of people that are saying that he didn't say that.
Well, it's just this catch-22 between how do we stop that? We don't want them to get the nuclear weapon and we don't want to go to war. We make Israel do our dirty work.
Right, and so this is the false binary that you keep coming back
I'm asking you what I mean, you said, have Russia negotiate.
Wait, hold on. What if we did not war?
Well, again, I don't think it is war.
I mean, I think
it's a strike against.
It's just a bad faith tactic on your part.
I'm not saying
I could easily say
this is a bad faith tactic. I'm saying specifically
you're either a warmonger or you're not. So you're a warmonger. So you're a warmonger.
I'm not saying war. I'm saying a strike.
Right, so I could do that all night, but I'm not that kind of guy. So I don't like doing that.
Oh, this is spicy. I love it.
He is a warmonger.
People, though, you do say that all the time. No, but again, I'm not talking about
to Mark Levin, to Lindsey Graham, to people who deserve it.
Elad, admit it. You're a Bolton bro.
Well,
John Bolton. Aha! The mustache has taken over.
You come in here wearing that mustache and tell me that Raytheon doesn't get you hot.
I think there was a reason Trump brought him on at one point for a reason. So,
did you guys see this? That when Trump made an announcement, I can't remember what it was. It was last night. Like at some point, Trump made a statement, and then all of the military-industrial complex stock after hours jumped.
Oh yeah.
I wonder what it's at right now. I bet it's going up.
Wait, Tim, are you saying there's a financial incentive towards war?
How dare you?
Are you saying that?
Heavens! Are you saying that would be unethical?
Are you saying that one of the world's largest oil producers in Iran, that this flow of oil, this massive flow of oil, may have something to do with what's driving these events? Is that entirely somewhere within
You know
the
what I
realm
like?
of
I like
possibility.
Lockheed. It's a cool name, Lockheed. You know what I mean?
Lockheed.
Yeah, Lockheed. You know.
There's actually a great book.
They're up 2.6%.
There's actually a great book that's written all about regime change in Iran and sort of the previous regime change operations the U.S. has been involved in, and it's called Dune by Frank Herbert.
Dune.
I'm dead serious. You didn't know this?
Look at this. This is hilarious. When the war starts,
Northrop Grumman.
spiked straight up.
Yeah, but Tim, you know about this, right? So the book Dune and the movies Dune are all about regime change in Iran.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, 100, like dead serious.
Oh, the movies were terrible.
Yes, they were. Well, not the 80s one. I like the
David
80s
Lynch one?
Yeah, the David Lynch one was good. The new ones, no. The newer ones, it's just like a series of trailer scenes like strung together rather than like I'm looking at something. But no, you think about it, right? It's the Galactic Empire needs the unobtainable material resource that is under the sand, and on top of the sand are these plucky religious fanatics. And the only way to get this unobtainable resource, which of course powers all the vehicles in the galaxy, is by conquering this land. But then after conquering it, another house, which is also part of the empire,
It just sounds like Fern Gully.
comes in and takes them out. I'm dead serious.
You know Fern Gully?
I know Fern Gully.
That sounds like Fern Gully.
Was there a regime in Fern
No,
Gully?
but like the fairies were in the trees, you know, and then they had to come and get
There were fairies.
Oh, no, there's a demon in the trees.
You're thinking of Avatar.
It is like Avatar.
Same thing.
It's
Yeah.
all the same.
They were singing bats in Fern.
Yeah, they called it unobtainium.
Unobtainium.
It was so bad. It was so bad. But no, yeah, so Dune was based on the last time the US and the UK got involved in a regime change operation in Iran, and they overthrew the prime minister who had nationalized all of the oil in Iran. And they were like, we got to get rid of that guy. So they brought back the Shah. This was the second Shah, if you're following. And they basically threw him out of office, put the Shah back in. He stays there for a while. And the people of Iran really didn't like that because I always screw up the guy's name. Mosaddegh was this very popular nationalist, like populist nationalist kind of figure, and he was saying we're going to get rid of the U.S. and the UK. Well, it was really more the UK at the beginning. BP was involved, obviously, and we're going to get that. We're going to get in there, and we're going to allow the flow of oil back to the world market, back to the UK, back to the U.S. And the people of Iran got really mad about that, and so rather than vote for somebody else, they decided to turn to a pretty crazy group of people called, as we now know, the Iranian revolutionaries, and back them, throwing him out of office and the entire government of Iran. So these regime change operations, and that's not even to say Iraq, Syria, Libya, Ukraine, all the rest of them, they always have unintended consequences, and the law of unintended consequences is always there. So the current government of Iran is there because of a U.S. CIA-backed regime change operation in the 1950s. And this is why they chant death to America. They hate us because we keep screwing around with them.
I thought they hate us because they ain't us.
Oh.
They hate us for our freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with Jack that it's a false binary that either you want them to have a nuclear weapon or go to war. I think the issue is that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and I'm just not seeing that. And you look on X, and there are people beating the same drum from Iraq saying the Iranians just want to be liberated. It's the same Dick Cheney line for and will be greeted as liberators.
And I think it's simple to say that the threshold for intervention is incredibly high. So just coming out and saying, you know, I've seen a report, it looks like they're doing nukes, is not enough evidence, in my opinion, to justify. More importantly, you know what? I will resign my entire argument. Fine. Go to war with Iran as long as Congress declares it.
Tucker just
he had the biggest smile on his face when you said go to war with
Very
Iran.
dangerous, Tim. I don't know if you should be betting on that.
What did Tucker say?
Oh no, he's got Ted Cruz on tomorrow.
Oh wow.
Nice.
So it's kind of going to
if Congress votes for a declaration of war, then I kind of shrug and say, okay, well, I don't want that to happen, but yeah, wow, if you can get Congress to vote on anything, I'd be impressed.
If there's one thing they would be able to agree on,
Yeah.
it would be something like that.
I doubt it. Democrats are already coming out being like, no, we oppose this because they want points against Trump.
But I feel like privately they would be for it.
Maybe.
So
maybe
how
when
do they
Lockheed
vote?
shows up and says, I got a $500,000 check for your
They always
re-election, they
do.
say yes.
Well, I mean,
Historical pattern.
Yeah,
Elon's
they
got a
always
point
do.
though, because the Democrats were all for war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So would they also be for this war?
Well, then-
Kind of a weird take for them. Like,
Why-
are we for the Republican war?
Why
No,
would
we're only
Congress
for
not
Democrat
schedule it
war.
right now? Like a debate on war with Iran. I think, here's my prediction. Iran's already threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. has said they're not going to allow that. Security forces will be deployed to the region. They're going to say our trading partners in the Persian Gulf can't be blocked off by Iran's, temper tantrum. And then U.S. forces will be attacked in this, trying to secure the Strait of Hormuz. And then there will be a debate in the United States, very quick one, about like, we can't allow American troops' lives to be taken. If any soldiers die, any U.S. servicemen or women die in this, Trump's going to lose it. He's going to be like, I will not be Joe Biden. We will not tolerate this.
Do you think there's the possibility for a false flag right now?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Come on. Like, people don't understand that false flags happen every day, dozens to hundreds of times. And I don't mean at the grand scale for war to start wars. I mean, even at the smallest level. They're like, what was that famous story about Tucker Max? He had a book coming out. So they put up a billboard and then he intentionally graffitied his own billboard. Then he called in a radio station and said, hey, this billboard for the Tucker Max guy, it's all spray painted up. They vandalized it, generating a bunch of media attention. People do this stuff all the time as a standard marketing tactic, as a legal tactic. So, of course, the U.S. intelligence agencies are going to be like, we don't care. If we want to enter the war and we want to casus belli, we'll make it happen. They did it with, they did it, they do it all the time.
Well, Gulf of Tonkin is the famous
The most famous. And it was funny because that was a conspiracy theory up until, like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
They were claiming it was not true. And if you thought that it was a conspiracy theory, and then they finally declassified it like, oh, yeah, actually, we lied about what got us into the Vietnam War. So, absolutely. But it won't matter. It won't matter. And the lunatics are going to pull this out of context. That's what they do. It does not matter who attacks in a false flag because no one believes what they don't want to believe. So, even if there's strong evidence the U.S. attacked itself or a third party that wants to force the war, the people who want the war in the U.S. are going to be like, nope, you're crazy. It happened. Iran will deny it even if they did do it. So I think that's the direction we're heading, and I hope it's not the case. But if they want war and they're positioning the U.S. for war, why would they not do it?
Yeah, in the 6-Day War back in the 60s, there was a U.S. Navy ship that was famously also attacked. And a lot of people say that was potentially either by Johnson, who did, by the way, the Gulf of Tonkin, or potentially some other actors, what may have been a potential false flag attack or an attempt, even though the ship didn't sink. So, I mean, these things with Navy, and this, I was a Navy officer, right? So my heart goes out to all of the sailors that are on those aircraft carriers. That's 5,000 sailors per ship. Right. So that's just the aircraft carrier. So that's 10,000 right there, 10,000 souls per aircraft carrier. Then you've got hundreds and hundreds of more throughout the strike group and then the different bases. Plus we've got Air Force, et cetera, in the area. So the Persian Gulf it's actually a lot smaller than a lot of people realize. We think of it as this huge thing, but it would be, like the Great Lakes are we don't consider that to be that big of a deal, but like they're enormous, right? And so basically what I mean to say is all of this military equipment is coming very, very, very close together right now to the point where, we're talking about these long range bombers and bunker busters and things. But once you get things into the Strait of Hormuz, and this is why it's such a key critical choke point, because so it's the mouth. People say Strait of Hormuz. What does that mean? Okay, this is the mouth of the Persian Gulf. And 20% of the world's oil flows through there from the Gulf Arabs and from the Persians as well. And so any blockage of this, mining it, which the IRGCN, so the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, has threatened to do this time and time again, it would be very easy for them to do this. What they would do is they would take a couple of merchant tankers that would probably be, false flagged, right? With some operating under like some Antigua flag or a Mongolia flag or something like that in the middle of the night. They just park right there in the Strait of Hormuz and just start pushing mines over the side. And then what do you do? So that's the mouth of the Persian Gulf. And then to your point, now you've got the U.S. Navy in there, you have the U.S. Coast Guard, the UK is around. Typically the French have a couple of ships around. I think there's a French carrier there as well right now. Yeah, the Jaquia is there, and I'm used to having access to, in the Navy when you're in, you have access to all like the direct lifetime feed, so you can see just everything on a given basis. And one of those things you don't always have, but it's all very, very within range of even the smallest. This is why the Houthis were able to be so effective at their fire across the Red Sea because of a very similar situation. That was the first time that you saw an effective naval blockade essentially conducted from land.
Yeah, for people that don't know, the Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles across. So it's really, really, really small, like really narrow. So the idea...
You could almost see across.
Yeah. I mean, at 20 miles, I imagine you could, right?
If you were high enough up, but in clear enough day. But unlikely, but it almost.
But so, yeah, I mean, it's incredibly vulnerable, and like the U.S. would absolutely go to war over that little piece of water.
You'd isolate Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, so they're not going to let that happen.
And for the record, if anyone's blocking the Strait of Hormuz, that's fully support the U.S. Navy doing whatever it takes to get them out of there. No question.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like we already had one tanker explosion, and they're saying due to the chaos in the Strait and Iran's threat to shut it down, it's already starting.
Zero had some stuff up about GPS malfunctioning and GPS issues within the Strait, so potentially leading to, is someone jamming, right? Is the question, is someone jamming in the Strait of Hormuz? So you've got miscalculation, you've got the threat of just general threat to merchant shipping, and then if that's still going on, you've then got the question of one of the things the Iranian ships will do, these IRGC ships. The reason I mentioned, so Iran has two militaries. There's the IRGC and their standing army and standing navy, both of which have different armaments, both of which have different tactics. It's typically seen that the IRGC operates under the Ayatollah, and so they get a little bit better funding in terms of like special forces type of stuff. That's where Quds Force Soleimani was part of the IRGC in terms of their external operations branch. That's why he was in Iraq when he was killed. And so they've got these picket ships and fast boats. So the idea is, well, how are you going to take out a giant aircraft carrier? Well, you surround it like like the Spanish galleons of old with these small ships, and then you attack it from all sides at once. And if a carrier were passing through the Strait of Hormuz and were attacked that way, it would actually be extremely vulnerable, especially if they've got Charlie 802, they've got cruise missiles or something else that parked in the back of those things. It would be extremely vulnerable to a couple of hits below the waterline, and now you've got a huge problem on your hands.
I think a key thing to also understand here, I think it's I could have the number wrong, something like 20% of the world's oil transits the Strait of Hormuz. Mm-hmm. Also, give or take. Also, I think it's important to notice like who the biggest losers here would be. Obviously, this would be a big loser for global trade, and everybody would suffer when oil prices shoot up as a result of this. However, China specifically imports 40% to 50% of their oil through countries that will transit that Strait of Hormuz. So China would be a huge loser in this situation, and China would suffer a huge amount of economic distress as a result of this. So there would be worldwide reverberations as a result of this trade
and
closing.
By the way, this vulnerability is exactly why China is building the BRI, so the Belt and Road Initiative. So that's exactly, they understand this, and they say, okay, well, this is why we want to build our pipelines and railway system up through Pakistan, through this economic corridor, and then what's right on the other side of Pakistan from that spot in China? Well, that's where the Uyghurs live. That's Xinjiang. So that's why the Uyghurs and EITF and these various groups are such a threat to China in that sense, because it's just basic geography. So they want to control that area because it could potentially be an extremely key resource. China doesn't have oil. China doesn't have the resources that Iran does. China obviously is Iran's number one partner. 90% of Iran's oil is sold to China. And so they would love to be able to have it come over pipeline. Now you're not paying because to have fuel shipped to you, you have to pay for the fuel cost of the fuel coming on the super tankers, right? Yeah, it's a little bit ironic there. So if China were able to build pipelines and a railway system, it would drastically reduce that price of the Iranian oil to begin with coming out. That's why Xinjiang is so important to their imperial gains and pushing out really just across all of Asia and Eurasia. That's why they want that so much. And that's why to them, the Uyghurs, it's just the cost of doing business.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.